The Steelers just got back from Ireland, but the buzz around their offense hasn't settled down one bit. And for good reason. What happened overseas might just be one of the most revealing performances we've seen from this team all season. And not because of some flashy stats or a blowout win, but because of what didn't happen. Pittsburgh came out with a game plan that raised more than a few eyebrows, especially with how they used their tight ends, or better yet, how they didn't use them. Pat Freiermuth, one of the most reliable targets this offense has had in recent years, barely saw the field. 15 offensive snaps. That's it. And even more surprising, not a single target. 0. A guy who's built his career on being a consistent part of the passing attack was essentially invisible in the box score. Jonas Smith? Same story. Just 13 snaps and only a couple of short catches to his name. So when you add it all up, the Steelers' top two tight ends were in on less than 1/3 of the team's total offensive plays. That's not by accident. That's not a glitch. That was part of the design. Instead of relying on their usual weapons, the Steelers made a very conscious decision to beef up the line and go heavy on blocking. Darnell Washington, he was in there for 48 snaps, all but 5 of the offensive plays. And then there's Spencer Anderson, who functioned more like a sixth offensive lineman than anything else. 19 snaps for him. Think about that. He played more than either Freiermuth or Smith. That's a clear statement, and it speaks volumes about what the Steelers were trying to do. Now, you might wonder, what's the logic behind sitting 2 proven tight ends for a rookie and a backup lineman? Well, it wasn't random. This was all tailored for a very specific matchup. The Minnesota Vikings and their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores. Anyone who's followed Flores knows he loves to bring pressure. Blitzes from all angles, especially on second and third downs. He thrives on creating chaos at the line of scrimmage, and the Steelers weren't about to walk into that fire unprepared. By lining up Washington on one side and Anderson on the other, Pittsburgh didn't just add muscle. They created a visual deterrent. Just the presence of those two guys out there made the Vikings think twice before sending extra rushers off the edge. It was strategic, it was calculated, and it worked. The offensive line held up. The running game found rhythm. And most importantly, the Steelers walked away with a win. Freiermuth, for his part, wasn't bitter. When asked about the reduced role, he just smiled. He knew what the plan was. He bought in. He saw how well Washington and Anderson performed, and he gave him credit. That kind of team-first attitude doesn't always get headlines, but it matters. Especially when the game plan sacrifices individual stats for the sake of a team win. But let's not pretend this is the new normal. This wasn't the Steelers announcing a permanent change to their offense. This wasn't Mike Tomlin saying, "All right, Freiermuth, you're done." No, this was a one-off. A chess move tailored for a specific opponent. Moving forward, the coaching staff knows they need to get Freiermuth and Smith back into the offensive flow. Not just for the sake of balance, but because those guys are playmakers. They're part of the identity of this team. The problem is clear, though. Neither Freiermuth nor Smith have been getting it done in the blocking game. And that's why the coaches turned to a backup lineman and a rookie to fill that gap. It's not ideal, but it was necessary. Now, the message has been sent. If Freiermuth and Smith want their reps back, they're going to have to earn them. And that starts with improving in the trenches. You can't just be a receiving threat in this offense anymore. Not with the way the Steelers are building their identity. So what happens next? Do the Steelers roll out the same personnel against Cleveland after the bye week? That's unlikely. The Browns are a different animal altogether. Their defense isn't built like Minnesota's, but it's just as dangerous, maybe more so. Jim Schwartz has that group playing fast, aggressive, and physical. They don't blitz like Flores does, but they swarm. They suffocate, and they make life miserable for quarterbacks. So again, Pittsburgh will need to craft a new game plan, one that makes sense for that specific matchup. And here's the key. The Steelers don't need to chase balance for the sake of it. They don't need to force targets to the tight ends just to make people feel better. They need to do whatever gives them the best chance to win. Freiermuth said it himself. The plan worked, and they got the victory. That's all that matters. Everything else is secondary. This is where things get interesting. Because for years, people have complained that the Steelers are too predictable, too stubborn, too unwilling to adapt. But what we saw in Ireland was the exact opposite. This was a coaching staff that recognized a problem, tailored a creative solution, and executed it. No ego, no fear of backlash, just a straight-up commitment to doing what needed to be done. That's not something we've always seen from this team, and it's worth acknowledging. Now, that doesn't mean they've solved all their problems. It doesn't mean the offense is suddenly fixed or that the coaching staff has it all figured out. But it does show growth. It shows a willingness to evolve. And that's a huge step in the right direction. Looking ahead, we should expect to see more of Freiermuth and Smith, assuming they respond to the challenge. Blocking is now non-negotiable. If you want to be part of this offense, you've got to do more than run routes and catch passes. You got to get your hands dirty. And if that message sticks, the Steelers might finally start to unlock the kind of balanced, physical offense they've been chasing for years. On the other side of the ball, though, there's been some quiet progress that's worth spotlighting. One of the biggest reasons why the defense has tightened up recently has been the emergence of defensive tackle Dean Lowry. Not a household name, not a headline grabber, but someone who's brought real stability to the front line. He's not putting up wild stats, just a few tackles here and there, but what he's doing is anchoring that interior, holding his ground, and letting the linebackers clean things up. And clean things up they have. Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen have been playing like heat-seeking missiles lately. 8 solo tackles each against Minnesota. 13 total for Wilson, 11 for Queen. That's old-school linebacker play. Fast, physical, and always around the ball. The chemistry between those two is growing every week, and it's starting to pay dividends. Quinn even said after the game that for the first time, he felt like his calls were really being understood. There's that word again, communication. It might be overused, but it's real, and it's making a difference. Deshaun Elliott, back in the mix at safety, is another reason why things feel more solid. 4 solo tackles, a couple assists, and just a general sense of control on the back end. Add in some splash plays from Queen, Wilson, and even Keanu Benton, who racked up 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 3 quarterback hits. And you're looking at a defense. But maybe the most encouraging stat of all, missed tackles. After weeks of struggling in that department, the Steelers missed only 2 tackles the entire game in Dublin. That's not just improvement, that's discipline. That's players understanding their assignments and executing without hesitation. And all of this came without Cam Hayward registering a single stat. Nothing, not even a pressure. That's not ideal, but it also highlights how well the rest of the unit played around him. Guys stepped up, roles were filled, and the Steelers' defense, for one of the few times this season, looked complete. Not dominant, not elite, but complete. And sometimes that's all you need. There's still work to do. No one's popping champagne yet. But for the first time in a while, this team is showing signs of real identity. A coaching staff willing to adapt. Players buying in. Execution on both sides of the ball. That's the formula. And if they can keep building on it, things might get a lot more interesting down the stretch. Now let's talk about the part that often flies under the radar, but might be the most important piece of this puzzle. How the Steelers are managing to shift their identity mid-season, and doing it without making a lot of noise about it. What happened in Ireland wasn't just a one-game adjustment. It was a glimpse into the direction this team is trying to move toward. More physical, more flexible, and most importantly, more situationally aware. That's something this franchise hasn't exactly been known for over the past few years. Too often, Pittsburgh has looked stuck in its ways, clinging to outdated schemes and philosophies that don't fit the personnel or the modern game. But now, there's a quiet evolution taking place, and it's showing up in the details. Take Spencer Anderson's role, for example. This isn't just some backup lineman getting garbage snaps. The coaches are using him strategically as a 6th offensive lineman who lines up like a tight end, but delivers the kind of blocking that makes a real difference. That kind of versatility is gold in today's NFL, and the fact that Pittsburgh is willing to build that into their offense speaks volumes. Anderson's presence on 19 snaps wasn't about filling space. It was about helping neutralize an aggressive defense. It was about protecting the quarterback, creating lanes for the run game, and giving the offense the structure it needed to survive a matchup that could have gone sideways very quickly. And when you combine that with Darnell Washington's breakout performance, It starts to look like the Steelers are carving out a new offensive identity on the fly. Washington wasn't just out there jogging routes or playing decoy. He was in the trenches, throwing blocks, opening holes, and bringing physicality to every play. It was probably the best performance of his young career, and it couldn't have come at a better time. For a rookie tight end to handle that many snaps in a game plan that demanded toughness and consistency, that's impressive. That's the kind of building block a team can grow around. Now, of course, none of this means that the Steelers are abandoning their core players. No one is saying Freiermuth or Smith are on the outs. But the message from the coaching staff is clear. If you want to stay on the field, you've got to do everything. Not just catch passes, not just run good routes. You got to block, you got to fit the scheme, and you've got to bring that physical edge on every snap. This is the kind of accountability that hasn't always existed in Pittsburgh's offensive room. And it might be the reason why things are finally starting to click. The bye week couldn't come at a better time either. It gives the staff a chance to go back through the tape and really evaluate what worked and what didn't. And it gives players like Freiermuth and Smith a chance to reset, regroup, and come back ready to prove that they belong in every phase of the game. It's not about punishing them. It's about pushing them. This team has big goals. And if that means making uncomfortable changes to reach them, then so be it. One thing that's starting to become very clear is that this coaching staff is no longer afraid of shaking things up. Mike Tomlin, for all his old-school toughness and loyalty to veterans, has been more willing this season to experiment and adapt than at any point in recent memory. The changes on the offensive line, the use of Anderson and Washington, the aggressive shuffling on defense. These are not the moves of a coach stuck in his ways. These are adjustments made by someone who understands a modern game and isn't afraid to make bold calls if they help the team win. And speaking of defense, let's go a bit deeper into what's happening on that side of the ball. Because while all eyes were on the offense in Ireland, the defense quietly put together one of its most complete performances of the season. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dominant in the way a blowout would suggest. But it was steady. It was smart. And it was efficient. That's the kind of defensive effort that doesn't just win games, it builds trust. Not just among the players, but between the coaches and the roster. There's a different energy around guys like Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson right now. They're not just filling gaps and making tackles. They're setting the tone. They're showing up in every phase of the game, and more importantly, they're making plays when it counts. Queen's leadership is becoming more vocal. You can see in the way he directs traffic before the snap, and in the way he celebrates with his teammates after a big stop. Wilson, on the other hand, is flying around with the kind of speed and confidence you don't usually see from a young player. His instincts are sharp, and his tackling has been almost flawless. It helps when the defensive front is holding its own, too. Dean Lowry might not be a name that's talked about much outside the building, but his impact is undeniable. He's giving the line a level of consistency it desperately needed. He's not trying to make highlight reels. He's just doing his job, snap after snap. And when that kind of effort becomes contagious, it lifts the entire defense. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Shockwaves are rippling through the NFL as whispers in the league have turned into full-blown speculation. Davante Adams, the superstar wide receiver known for his precision, speed, and clutch performances, has reportedly agreed to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sources close to the matter suggest Adams is set to don the iconic black and gold, instantly elevating a Steelers offense that has long been searching for that game-changing spark. The chatter began subtly on social media, with insiders hinting at a major move that could reshape the AFC North, but few expected it to involve a receiver of Adams' caliber. If the rumors hold, the Steelers wouldn't just be adding a veteran presence. They'd be acquiring a player capable of transforming their passing game overnight. Adams' arrival could provide quarterback Kenny Pickett with the elite target he's been yearning for, someone who can stretch defenses, win contested catches, and shift the momentum of games with a single play. Fans are already imagining the possibilities. Adams running crisp routes along the sidelines, breaking free from defenders, and connecting with Pittsburgh's offense in ways that would make opposing defenses rethink their entire game plan. The synergy between a rising young quarterback and a seasoned star receiver could make the Steelers' aerial attack one of the most feared in the league. Some analysts are even speculating that this move might push Pittsburgh back into playoff contention sooner than expected, giving the team the kind of offensive firepower it has lacked in recent years. Naturally, rival teams are taking notice. The whispers in locker rooms across the NFL are loud. Pittsburgh has just made a statement. While nothing is officially confirmed, the buzz around Adams' potential signing is enough to make headlines and ignite debates about the balance of power in the AFC. One thing is clear. If these rumors are true, Steelers fans are about to witness a thrilling transformation that could redefine the team's identity. Black and gold may never have looked so lethal. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.